Hi everyone, welcome to Transcendent Thursday. I am continuing my little mini series about elemental magic, and today we're going to talk about air. This is the air symbol. It is an upright triangle, not perfect because I was drawing pretty bad, with the line through it towards the top here. Last video was Earth. It is the opposite. It is the inverted triangle with the line through it. Air, earth, air. Think it's pointing upwards, right? So moving right in. Air is connected to the mind, but not in the logic and reasoning sense that the air or that the earth element is connected to the mind. Air is connected to the mind in more of an abstract and creativity kind of way. Philosophical intelligence, ideas and dreams, that is the way that air is brainy. It can represent new beginnings, and as a magical element, it can be rather elusive but very powerful, much like air is in the physical realm. Air is about freedom and not worrying about having so much control over everything all the time. Physically, air can be harnessed to aid in sail and travel. It can power turbines for electricity, but at the same time, it's an uncontrollable and unstoppable force like a tornado or hurricane. So when you think you know something is constant, air is there to prove differently and shake things up because it can change so fast. So air is also about believing in what we can't see, right? Just because we can't see the air doesn't mean it isn't there or that it doesn't exist. So when you think about working with the air element, think about being more carefree and flexible and independent, because air is there to empower us to fly on our own. In spell work, we focus on the air element to help us make decisions and weigh all possibilities. And I say weigh ironically because when we're looking at making a decision, we're thinking about all of the outcomes and the possibilities, but we need to be more lighthearted and abstract sometimes and thinking about potential outcomes in a way that we haven't thought about it before. Air can help us break out of those heavy thought patterns, the ones that we get stuck in our head that happen over and over when we're just on a one track and we can't break out. Air is a great element to work with when we're trying to think outside the box or to get out of our head. Spells for communication and gaining strength in our voice when we need courage for public speaking, to approach our boss about a problem or a raise, speaking up against injustice and that sort of thing, where our voices would otherwise be somewhat shaken. Air gives us that extra oomph that we need. If you want to work with the air element, there are some crystals and stones and herbs and oils that I do recommend when you do spell work or representation on your altar. Crystals and stones, there's actually something called a hag stone, and I have pieces here that I want to show you. And there are these very lightweight, sort of pumicey, chalky feeling type stones that have these holes and these indents, almost like thumbprints. And there's a legend that says that the holes represent portals to the fairy realm or to other unseen realms. So they're a very mystical kind of stone. I think they're just cool looking and they're very lightweight. Also, another lightweight stone is pumice, which is shown here, just like these really light aerated sort of grayish, whitish stones. You can often find them on beaches where there has been previous volcanic activity. I happen to live close to Mount St. Helens, and so our riverbeds have a lot of these. Lapis lazuli is a good stone because that is a great stone for working with the throat chakra, communication and conversation and all that. Smoky quartz and yellow topaz are other stones. There's a whole list of stones, but those are the ones that I usually work with. Herbs and oils, so that would be cottonwood or cotton. Cottonwoods are those white fluffy things that you see in the air that cause people to have really bad allergies in the spring and summer. So anything kind of cotton or cottonwood as far as herbs or fragrance. Lavender, peppermint, eucalyptus, lemongrass, anything that is light and fresh is a good one to work with. Maple trees also have those little helicopter leaf pod things. So maple is also another good one to work with. You can also take those little maple pods and you can put them on your altar as a physical representation. Things that you find in nature like feathers, the little pods and leaves, and the wish flowers or the dandelions that you blow and the little specks fall and fly all over. Sound is a huge representation of air. Bells, Tibetan singing bowls, music, musical instruments, wind chimes. Those are, I use bells sometimes. It's really interesting using bells when I'm doing magic work. It's something about sound that sort of snaps you out of the moment, and it's just, well, I hate to be cheesy and say transcendent, but I listen to Tibetan singing bowls and bells and chimes when I'm trying to relax. It's just very soothing. Other representations you can use would be things like fans or birds, angels, images of clouds, and some people like me also just like to use the smoke from sage or from incense that's burning to represent air. Because sometimes if I'm in a hurry and I don't want to grab my bells or my singing bowl or anything like that, it's just like, oh, well, here I'm burning this incense already. There you go. There's smoke that represents air. And I do like to try and represent all of the elements when I'm doing magic work. So something I didn't talk about last video is the representation of elements in tarot. And there are some varying traditions that say the suit of swords in tarot are associated with air, and others say wands. There's a lot of back and forth. And I kind of tend to get mixed up a little bit sometimes. Sometimes when I'm doing a reading, I feel like wands is more of an air thing and swords is a fire thing. Other times it's the other way around. But regardless, air is an action element. And I was browsing some forums to look at the back and forth, and I stumbled on this one post that said that as an action element, air controls the other suits. So swords, it's about what we do, but wands is about how we do it. Pentacles is about what we have, but wands tell us what to do with it. Cups tells us what to feel or how we feel, but the wands tell us how we act on those feelings. And that's the best way that I could describe how wands and air are connected. But you think about waving a sword around in the air, and there's movement, but also that it can be very forceful, and so is fire. So anyway, I won't go too far into it, but that's the reason why there's so much flip-flop, because wands could be fire, wands could be air, swords could be fire, swords could be air. Traditionally, wands is fire. That's the research that I've done with it, and so traditionally they represent fire. And I forgot to mention in the last video also that earth is associated with the suit of pentacles in tarot. It's about the physical plane and earthly possessions. It's about wealth and abundance and how we communicate with being rooted in those things. So sorry to backtrack a little bit on that, but I thought that was important to mention. The astrological signs that are air signs are Gemini. Hi, I'm a Gemini. Libra and Aquarius. My husband is an Aquarius, and I actually know a lot of Aquarians. So we got 2 air signs going on, and it's really interesting. You know, traditionally, well, not traditionally, but more like a common assumption is that air signs are airheaded, or that they're aloof and they don't focus. Well, as a Gemini, I can definitely speak to, I have a lot of duality and sometimes indecisiveness and sometimes trouble focusing on one thing or another. But I have a very creative mind as well. And so I'm sure other air signs have those particular traits in their personalities. Sometimes they don't. But I won't go too much into it because this is not about astrology. It is about elemental magic. So that's all I have for this video. It was just a couple minutes longer, but thanks for watching, and tune in next time for fire. We're going to talk about fire next time. All right, bye-bye.